Caitlin Clark hasn't played a game since the Phoenix night, the fist to her throat the whole country saw, then a separate fall that twisted her back and took her out of the game. Since then, solo workouts in an empty gym. No interviews, no public statements, nothing. And into that silence, a man on a national show delivered her farewell speech for her. Thank you, Caitlin. We can take it from here. That man has a name, Emmanuel Acho, ex-NFL linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles, Emmy-winning broadcaster, a decade in national studios. And this week, on his YouTube show, he didn't just claim the WNBA could survive without Caitlin Clark. He declared the league would be better off without her. Then he went further. He named her replacements. 3 names, and one of them shares her locker room. Hold that thought, because the fans have already voted on this. In the league's latest All-Star returns, Caitlin Clark sits at 670,510 votes, second most of any player in the WNBA, behind only her own teammate Aliyah Boston. That's the woman the microphone says nobody needs anymore. Stay with me, because the closer you look at this verdict, the worse it gets. Look at what he actually said, because the exact words matter. On his Speakeasy show, The Story Broke Monday, Emmanuel Acho said, quote, "The W at this junction in time would be better off without Caitlin Clark because she is a bigger distraction than she is an additive." He wasn't done. Quote, "Caitlin Clark has gotten the WNBA over the necessary threshold they needed. Now people are watching. Now we realize, oh, there's talent in the W. Talent that's actually even greater than Caitlin Clark. Caitlin got the necessary eyes there. But now that the eyes are there, we don't necessarily need her anymore." And then the sentence that should stop every fan cold. Thank you, Caitlin. We can take it from here. Notice what's buried in there. Even Acho concedes. Caitlin got the necessary eyes there. The man arguing the league doesn't need her admits, on tape, that she's the reason anyone's watching. He grants her the premise, then hands her the exit. But here's the part that makes it sting. The names he offered as the greater talent: Olivia Miles, Paige Bueckers, and Kelsey Mitchell, Caitlin Clark's own teammate. He reached into her locker room to find her replacement. Remember that name? The history behind it flips his whole argument upside down. First, though, look at what Caitlin Clark was doing while he said all of this. No podium, no posts, just an empty gym and a back that wouldn't bend right. Rewind to Wednesday, June 24th. Gainbridge Fieldhouse, Fever and Mercury. Second quarter, 6:52 on the clock. Alyssa Thomas's fist makes contact with Caitlin Clark's throat area. No foul called on the floor. Play went on. It took the league office reviewing the tape after the game to call it what it was. A flagrant 2 plus a 1-game suspension for Thomas announced the next day. And that wasn't even the injury that took her off the court. Later that same night, on a separate play, Clark came down on an opponent's foot and twisted her back. She left the game. The Mercury won it, 111-109. Caitlin Clark hasn't played since. Her coach, Stephanie White, told reporters this week that the injury is a re-aggravation, not a new thing. Clark is limited to individual workouts. Asked about this weekend, White put it plainly: "It's still too early to say, and the team will not rush her." Put the picture together. A fist to the throat the officials missed in real time, a wrenched back the same night, then rehab, with her coach doing the talking. That exact window, injured, off camera, unable to answer, is the one the national microphones picked to hold her trial. Follow the calendar, because the speed of this is the story. Thursday, June 25th, one day after Clark went down, Boomer Esiason on his radio show, quote, "If I were Caitlin Clark, I would seriously consider going to play overseas somewhere and get the royal treatment and get real money." Translation: she should leave. For her own good, of course. Days later, the same week, Emmanuel Acho on Speakeasy says Caitlin Clark, quote, "has to fight one of these women. If you fight somebody, now they will know. The next time they try you, they're going to have to fight." He kept going. "I don't think the WNBA is failing Caitlin Clark. I think Caitlin Clark needs to get tougher. Protect yourself, stand up for yourself, defend yourself." And then he described the injured, silent face of the league like this: "She comes off as soft, she comes off as weak, she comes off as a brat, she comes off as too pompous." Monday, June 29th. The verdict you already heard. The league is better off without her. Thank you, Caitlin. We can take it from here. Tuesday, June 30th. One more turn of the knife. Reacting to Alyssa Thomas saying she'd been receiving threats from angry fans, Acho pointed straight at Clark's quiet. Quote, Caitlin Clark hasn't said anything either. 6 days. 2 national voices. She went from leave for your own good to we don't need you at all, while she was hurt, off camera, and not saying a word in her own defense. First they told her to go, then they told her not to come back. Now put his own statements side by side, because they can't both be true. One week, Emmanuel Acho demanded that Caitlin Clark throw a punch. Fight one of these women. Get tougher. The league isn't failing you. Days later, the diagnosis reversed completely. Now, she's a bigger distraction than an additive. Now she's, in his framing, coddled. Now the league is better off without her entirely. So which is it? If she's so coddled, why did a fist reach her throat with no foul called on the floor? He said the WNBA is not failing Caitlin Clark. Days later, he said the WNBA would be better off without Caitlin Clark. Both came out of the same mouth on the same show inside the same week, and nobody has explained the gap. And there's a detail in his own resume that tells you what this really is. Acho spent his decade in national studios co-hosting Speak and The Facility on FS1, until Fox canceled both shows in a July 2025 shakeup attributed to low ratings. Read that again, because it changes what you just watched. A broadcaster whose own shows went away in a ratings shakeup is now telling the WNBA it doesn't need its ratings engine. He's already lived the experiment he's prescribing. It took his shows off the air. He got an answer, though. Not from Clark, from everybody else. Athlon Sports reported that fans could not disagree more. Their word for the take was insane. High Post Hoops called it nonsensical, part of a growing media problem. College Sports Network went with dumbest take. Rachel Demita spent nearly 20 minutes on camera taking the argument apart, piece by piece. But the sharpest rebuttal didn't come from any studio. Across the comment threads, one fan put the whole thing in a single sentence, and hundreds of people lined up behind it. CC hasn't asked for the rules to be changed, they just need to call the game fairly. That's the entire counter-argument in one line. Nobody's demanding new rules or special treatment, just the existing rulebook, called evenly, which, on the night that started all this, would have meant a whistle. And that's why the ballots matter. The one receipt a hot take can't argue with. While Acho was declaring her expendable, fans made her the league's #2 vote-getter, 670,510 and counting, with the All-Star Game set for July 25th in Chicago. The audience, he says, doesn't need her, just told you in writing who they came for. Which brings us back to the name he never should have said out loud. Kelsey Mitchell arrived in Indiana as the #2 overall pick in 2018, a gifted scorer on teams going nowhere. Her first 6 seasons, 2018 through 2023, ended without a single playoff game, not one. Her first career playoff game finally arrived in 2024, Caitlin Clark's rookie year, the year the Fever reached the postseason for the first time since 2016. And Mitchell's best statistical season, 19.2 points a game with career highs across the board, came playing right next to Clark. Let that settle for a second. The talent Acho calls actually even greater than Caitlin Clark, the teammate he'd hand the league to, waited 6 years for a playoff game that only arrived when Clark did. None of this is Mitchell's doing. Acho drafted her into his argument without asking, and nothing here is a knock on her game. The numbers just refuse to cooperate with him. They say the opposite. The spotlight he wants to hand her is the same spotlight that finally found her. You know what? We can take it from here, sounds like? It sounds like golf. For years, golf told itself it was bigger than one player, that the audience Tiger Woods built would simply transfer to the next wave of brilliant young talent. Then came the receipts. In 2025, with Woods out of the field, ESPN's first-round Masters coverage averaged 2.3 million viewers, down 28% from 3.2 million the year before, with him in it. And the longer history runs deeper, Masters final rounds averaged roughly 20% fewer viewers whenever Woods wasn't in contention. The greater talent was real. The transfer never happened. The audience didn't slide over to the next name on the leaderboard. It left. And that's the experiment Emmanuel Acho wants to run on the WNBA, except golf lost Tiger to injuries and time. He'd wave off Caitlin Clark on purpose while she's hurt and silent, and call it progress. Here's where things stand now. Caitlin Clark is officially out for Sunday's game in Las Vegas. Her coach confirmed it, and her own target is one of next week's back-to-back games instead. But this week, she also did the one thing Acho's whole argument assumed she wouldn't. She spoke. At practice, she called the play exactly what it was. "I did think it was a flagrant foul," she said. "Our reffing just needs to be better." She addressed the hate directed at players across this league. "None of that is okay," she said, and she meant her own team and her opponents both. She never said his name. She didn't have to. The same week, Acho called her a distraction the league didn't need. The WNBA called her something else. Eastern Conference Player of the Month for June. 21.9 points a game, 8.2 assists, on a bad back. The number 2 vote-getter in the WNBA was told, in her silence, "Thank you, Caitlin. We can take it from here." She broke that silence this week. On the officiating. On the hate. Just not on him. So you tell me, can they take it from here? I've got my answer. Drop yours in the comments. And watch for her return in next week's back-to-back.